So it looks like we have 6. Let me just double check. So we have Kay, Ben, Jackie, Kira, Sarah, Allison. And Makokwa, let's see, I haven't heard back from her, but she said that she was going to attend. So Kira, are you in a position to lead the meeting? I will walk you through it. If you're talking, you are muted.
I think Kira may have had some trouble at our last subcommittee meeting as well on being able to use her voice chat through Zoom.
Okay. Yeah, she said her computer keeps crashing, so she's working on it. Kay, would you be willing to step in for now and then pass it as things get more stable?
Sure.
Okay.
Let me get the agenda up because I'm down to one screen when I'm working remote, and so I'm trying to.
Here, I'll share the screen and then.
Oh, great. That's fantastic. That helps me.
Let me see.
So yes, I'll be glad to open the meeting. Is Kira there?
Sorry, it says I'm paused screening. I don't know why. Oh, maybe because I moved that.
Yeah, me too.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, so can you go up just a little bit more on the agenda?
Call to order is the first piece.
Right. I was just going to see how exactly you had it.
Oh, okay.
On the,
like this.
agenda.
This type of up.
Yeah. At the very beginning. Just move it just a little bit up.
Like this or the other way?
No, the other way.
Here we go. This way?
Yep, that's all I needed. So I will open the Sustainability Advisory Board meeting of July 14th. And Jasmin, you've determined that we have a quorum?
Yes.
Is that correct? And now you can talk about our virtual meeting procedures.
Great. So Jasmin Moore, Sustainability Director. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast live on our YouTube channel and public access channel. So it's available for viewing that way. Because this is a virtual meeting, I just wanted to share some reminders about participation. So for board members, if you're able, please turn on your camera so that we can see you are present. I know we have a couple people joining via phone or don't have a camera ready, so just that's okay. Just if you're able to have your camera on, that's helpful. Just a reminder to state your name before any comments, so that way anybody that's just listening to the audio can track who is saying what. And then also, if there's a motion made, then to take roll call on any support or opposition for that by name, so that we can track that as well. I do have the option of muting people if the background noise in your location gets too distracting. I may mute you, and then you can unmute when you're ready to share again. So I think that is it for virtual meeting procedures.
Okay, great. And my name is Kay Johnson, Sustainability Advisory Board member. I'll be acting as the chair until someone else comes in. So we need to review and approve the May 2021 minutes. We did not have a quorum at our June meeting, so these are the May 2021 minutes. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Sarah Chenoweth. I make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, is there a second?
This is Allison Koonce. I second it.
All right, great. We'll need a vote. So all those in favor say aye, or raise your hand, or put it in the chat.
Aye.
And we do need a roll call vote, okay?
Okay, so Jackie? Oh, you're on mute.
Aye.
Thank you. Sarah?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
And I guess Kira, if Kira can hear. Don't know that she can.
Kira, if you're able, you can add your vote in the chat as well. And that will come to me and I will announce it. This is Jasmin. Or you can text it to me. Okay, Kira, do you support the minutes being approved? Yes. Okay. Kira says yes.
Okay, great. So the minutes are approved as voted on. We'll move into the agenda items. I guess there's a discussion about hybrid meetings. So Jasmin, do you have comments about that?
Yes. So I added some detail in the agenda itself. The City of Lawrence is starting to move its city commission meetings and has the option of moving advisory board meetings to a hybrid format. And so I wanted to just share that with you all and see what direction you all wanted to go. The current city commission meeting room, the layout is not conducive to 10 members, which you all have. It's conducive to about 5. So the options moving forward are to have, if some people do want to attend in person, that is an option for you, but it would require that some people still continue to attend remotely. Some boards are discussing, alternating who's there on a monthly basis in person versus remotely, and some other boards are choosing to just stick with remote because it seems to be working fine. So I wanted to share that that's a shift from the last time we met in June, and see if there are questions that I can help answer or any concerns, and just give you all a chance to discuss how you might want to move forward for the August meeting or any future meetings for the rest of the year.
So do you want us to discuss this now?
Yes, that would be helpful just so that we have some direction for August.
As far as I'm concerned, remote is fine with me for now. I could attend in person if I needed to, but it's just easier for me to do it remote. What about the rest of you? Jackie?
Oh, sorry. This is Sarah Chenoweth. I'm completely flexible. I kind of like to be in person just because I would love to meet all of you. But if other people have needs that they, technology needs they need to be in there, I can be remote.
So this is Jasmin, Sustainability Director. I just wanted to note, Makakwa just joined, and just to bring you up to speed, we're in the process of talking about hybrid meetings and whether this board wants to continue to meet all virtually, or some people meet in person in the city commission room, but the city commission room just doesn't have the capacity for everybody to meet here at the same time. So I also wanted to share that Kira put in the chat to me that she has some computer challenges, so she would love to meet in person or attend in person.
This is Allison, and I would be happy to do remote if that helps our numbers to kind of have a little bit of both. I like the remote option and can do that.
This is Makakwa. I like that idea. I think that giving people that option can hopefully increase our participation. I would like to meet in person, although I may not always be able to meet in person, but that's something that I would prefer. But I do endorse that decision. So however we can make that happen would be great.
What about you, Ben?
I'm comfortable either way. I would be fine to meet in person as well. Just for clarity, sorry, this has been Sikes, board member. Jasmin, for clarity, you're talking only about the board, so public would still not be, since we have limited space in there already.
So this is Jasmin, Sustainability Director. There is room for public to attend, and because there's they would come and speak at the podium, and so there's room for, I'm counting chairs now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 members of the public right now, if they wanted to attend, and then they come one by one up to the podium to participate. For the board members themselves, we're trying to accommodate so that each of you would have a station, you would have a camera on you so that those that are participating remotely can see you and interact with you in a meaningful way. So far I heard that Allison is willing to stay remote, Kay prefers remote, Makokwa, Kira, and Sarah would prefer in person. Ben is good either way. So if Ben would attend in person, that's still only 4 members in person, and we have room to accommodate 5. So it's.
I could occasionally attend in person. I do agree that we seem to get more sharing done in person. Obviously, I was able to participate in person before COVID, and know that the meetings did change a little bit. It's harder remote, so I'd be glad to do. However, it seems like the best thing for us to do is find a venue that could handle all of our board at the same time, and I don't know if the city has that available or not.
This is Jasmin, Sustainability Director. We are working on it because we see that this is really the path that we need to be going for future meetings, because it does allow people to participate in a different way, and it increases accessibility for some folks as well. So currently, this is the only setup that we have, but we do recognize that we're moving in that direction and looking at other facilities to help accommodate for a larger group. Okay, so it sounds like several folks are open to meeting in person for the August meeting. So this space is available for you, and nothing special that you need to do. You can just show up. We're at the City Commission room, which is different than where some of you met before. We were in the Parks and Rec building. So now for next month, just a reminder that you will be coming to City Hall, which is right at 6th and Mass Street.
So it seems we should probably have people select so that if one person that doesn't normally attend, they'll know how many are already committed to attending. Seems like we need to do something as far as reserving a space or something like that. I don't know what the best way to do it, but maybe some others would attend in person if there were vacancies.
This is Jasmin, Sustainability Director. I can see if I can figure out how to add that to the RSVP, even since we'll be switching to that in person. We'll have to change up the RSVP anyway. So I'll work on that for August.
Super, thank you. This is Kay again. Does Makokwa want to take over now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Sorry about being so late.
Take it away.
I apologize. So was this just the agenda that we're looking at then?
Yes, and Makokwa, I just put it up so that it was convenient for Kay to track what's happening. Let me know if you want me to keep sharing it or if you want me to close it out.
No, it helps to
keep
sharing it, honestly.
Okay.
So it looks like we are announcing that there's an open position for SAB membership, which is really sad. I hate to see Jackie go.
So that opening is really actually for Lily Mitchell, who stepped down a couple months ago. And then I also just wanted to note that there are several terms expiring at the end of this year, and these terms are all eligible for reappointment, but I wanted to just give the open door to if anybody who is not feels like this is not the best use of their time or has some other priorities and needs to step or doesn't want to reapply, then we want you to consider that, start thinking about that now so that we can be prepared to fill those positions as quickly as possible this fall. So that's, and then there's a link on the agenda for anybody who's interested in applying to serve on the board. You can fill that out, and the mayor makes recommendations for appointments.
So this is
Do we
Kate
have a-
Johnson.
Oh, go ahead.
So do we have a date that we need to apply for the December expiring terms?
It would be helpful if you would express your interest by November at the latest. And that way we can get it on a city commission agenda in December.
Thank you.
This is Malco Claude. That's exactly what I was going to ask, that maybe we can list it somewhere on the website or in the next board meetings about the deadline, just to remind people. I mean, I'm horrible with deadlines, so I want to make sure that other people know well in advance.
This is Jackie Carrol. Yeah, as Mako Kwa alluded to, I am planning on not being on the board for a whole lot longer. I'm actually not sure if this will be my last meeting or if it will be next month. Ben and I are working on the weatherization grant program recommendation. And so we'll probably have that ready next month. I'm just not sure yet if I'll be attending as a board member or as a member of the public/subcommittee member. So yeah, we'll have one more position open. I believe my current term expires in December of next year. So there will be 2 openings at that point.
This is Mako. That makes me sad, Jackie.
It's been a long time. I think that would have been my last eligibility. So I'm only leaving out like a year and a half early.
Okay. Well, you've contributed a lot to the board, and I appreciate all of your work. You're definitely one of my mentors, and I watched you early on how to conduct meetings and get things done. So if this is your last meeting, I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a long ride with lots of both disappointments and wins. So really all around experience.
Okay, so if you're interested in reappointing or applying for reappointment, make sure you let Jasmin know. It seems like there's a lot of people up for reappointment, so we can determine later on how many open positions there are. The last meeting we talked about having a letter template for the emission transition plan, or the transportation department. And they want to they're trying to transition to a 100% electric bus fleet. And that's something that the board has expressed many times that we would like to see happen, especially in cutting down emissions. So if we could vote on having this template that they could use each time that they apply for grants and would like our support for that, I think that would make it easier on the board. Is that something that we would be interested in? I'd like to open it up for comment. Jasmin, do you have anything to add to that?
This is Jasmin, Sustainability Director. I totally dropped the ball on that because I was so excited to hear that they got the grant without even before you all had the chance to submit a letter of support, that I totally forgot that we had talked about doing a generic letter of support. So I did not include that on here, but you could you could move forward with just saying this is, that you would authorize the chair to sign a letter of support to anything related to electrifying the fleet. If you feel like you need specific language, I can prepare that and be ready next month. So apologies for not getting that ready.
This is Makapa. Do they need specific language? I had planned on for them writing that up just because they know best what information they need included in there. And so they could send that to us and then we could read it and vote on it. But if they're not needing that support right away for the next meeting, that's something that, I would, when we vote on that, I would like to see the language that they use for their template, and then to vote on that then, so that we don't have any suggestions or anything else that we have to vote on.
Okay. Yeah, this is Jasmin. I'm happy to do that. Sorry again about not having that ready this month.
This is Makapa. No worries. I'm glad to hear that they got that grant and that, we didn't hold anything up but any future support, I would like the staff board to be able to supply that support in a way that can. So moving on to subcommittee report, it looks like we're going to have a report out from the noxious weeds group, which is really exciting.
Yeah, this is Ben Sikes, that member. Actually, Jasmin, I may have spoken too soon. There might be value in me sharing my screen just so I can show people kind of the same thing that you're looking at.
Okay, give me one moment.
Sure. So the SAB Noxious Weed Committee, or Weed Ordinance Subcommittee, we've traded a few different names, has met a couple of times now. The membership has expanded based on people that were interested. It includes myself, SAB member Sarah Chenoweth, and SAB member Kira McPherson. So we're the 3 SAB members that are on the subcommittee. We've also had a lot of interest from the public. And so Michael Almon, Courtney Masterson, Karen Pagel-Miners, and Terry Wilkie all have joined in. We're at our last meeting, focused on what is it about the weed ordinance that we believe can be improved, and what are some of the broader challenges that we focused on. So the link was in the agenda, and I think I might be able to bring it up here.
And Ben, you should be able to share your screen now.
Excellent. Thanks. So this is the ordinance. Can everybody see that? Just the whole screen. Yes. This is just the ordinance that's linked in the agenda. Are you all able to see it or not yet?
Yes.
So, this larger ordinance focuses on trees, like the broader chapter is focused on trees. Weeds are just one short section of this. So, for example, there's large sections on not emerald ash borer, but the Dutch elm disease. There's these large sections about trees on those kinds of things. I'm actually surprised that there's not yet things on emerald ash borer as well. The 2 main areas that our subcommittee has focused on and has been trying to think about ways to revise are here in Article 3 in the weed section. We had, I think, good discussions about excessive growth and vegetation, but have really focused in on trying to outline 2 major changes. One is the list of weeds that are included here in section F of 18-302. So Courtney Masterson and Michael Almon have really taken a leading role in creating the list of these plants, and then based on their expertise and looking up information as well, has tried to come back with recommendations for whether or not these specific species should be listed. There are species that are listed as noxious weeds for the state that we obviously can't change. Those are the same ones that are held at the county level, but the city actually goes quite a bit beyond that in many of the species that it lists. And so one of our localized tasks in refining the ordinance has been to look at the individual species. And so we hope our recommendation will be able to make a recommendation about changes to the specific weed list, including maybe some that might need to be added, but things like many that are considered native species and might have value to pollinators and other ecosystem services. That's one of the recommendations. Does anybody have any other? That's one of the foci for a recommendation. Does anybody have any questions about that one? It's relatively straightforward, I think.
This is Makakwat. Do y'all have that written up in like an ordinance form that, or could y'all get that written up in ordinance form that we could advise the city commission on passing?
Yeah, thank you, Makokwa. This has been Sikes. That's our goal, is to write that out in ordinance form about exactly what changes we'd like to see in this language around those specific species. And so we would, I'm hopeful that in the next couple of meetings, we can bring a specific ordinance, a specific recommendation that has ordinance language around the weeds. The second element that we have is a little more complex, and for this update, I would really like to get more feedback from the broader board. So I don't know if anybody else had any thoughts about these specific weeds or strong feelings about that element. So the second portion really focuses on an exemption that's carved out here in 18-304 that's focused on natural landscaping. So it's this C exemption. I think there was general consensus among the subcommittee members that first, that applying for the natural landscaping exemption is relatively complex and isn't very clear about how to do it. But that also there's a broader consensus that we need to be encouraging natural landscaping, resilient landscaping, rather than it simply being kind of an exemption to get away with having things that other people are designing as weeds. From a sustainability perspective, natural landscaping, native landscaping is going to provide more ecosystem services. Many native landscaping elements are way more resilient to elements of climate change, including drought and other things. And so part of what I think our subcommittee would like feedback on from the broader SAB is whether or not this little carve out here for natural landscaping is adequate to kind of enunciate more holistic evaluation of landscaping elements for city ordinances. Does that make sense? That was a lot of words.
This is Makokwa. Oh, go ahead, Jackie.
I agree. This should be the norm. I didn't even know that property owners should voluntarily register. Technically, I should be registered, but I didn't know that. And I agree. If you're going to encourage the behavior of something, you don't want to put barriers up to that. So I would definitely support not having a registration program for that and it just being the norm and being assumed.
Hi, this is Kay Johnson, SAB board member. From a compliance perspective, you might want to consider, how do you deal with the person that lets his tall grass and weeds grow tall and long before and calls it sustainable landscaping versus just not complying with the tall grass ordinance. It is, from a public health standpoint, you either want to have sustainable landscaping with appropriate xeriscaping and other vegetation, or the tall grass and weeds mowed. And I believe there's a requirement that if the person doesn't mow at a certain height, then they get a violation. it is real important that you are able to distinguish between the two. From a municipal perspective, I can tell you, got to be able to discern what the situation is and not just try to intuitively understand it. I would just recommend that you include the codes enforcement folks in discussion of that. You don't want it to make a complex situation, but you also want to make sure that there is a clear understanding of what each person's property is, because there are a lot of people that don't mow, and they don't plant sustainable plants. They just don't mow. And you can have lots of varmints and mice and rats and all sorts of other things that are vectors that can cause disease and illness. And so that needs to be considered. I would just strongly urge you to touch base with the code enforcement people.
Yeah, this has been Sikes. I really appreciate that comment, Kay. I did have a meeting with Brian Jimenez, who's the lead for the enforcement within the city, and did get significant feedback that 90 to 95% of the calls that they go on are exactly that, are people that haven't mowed, and some people, in fact, when the city's penalty for that was much lower, would just let the city mow their properties. They're basically vacant lots, or they live out of town or something like that. So I definitely think that is an element that we need built into the ordinance, that we do need an element of how do you distinguish between those two. I think it would be valuable if the ordinance itself was more clear about how to do that. And also that we have a complementary, I think there's general consensus within the subcommittee that there's no complementary element here that's encouraging people to do natural landscaping, right? So, Jackie, for example, what you said, we've seen them all over town, right? People have the little monarch watch pollinator stake in their yard or something like that. If you had applied for it and had those things, maybe then enforcement doesn't have to worry about that property if you've already been evaluated or those kind of things. But having an easy, not just an easy process, but an encouraging process from the city to get people to invest in making more resilient lawns, not simply not cutting their lawn and then saying, well, look how resilient it is because I haven't cut it in a while. But I agree. And Brian Jimenez had quite a good feedback about what they actually do day to day and what kind of things they encounter. So I think we want more feedback as well on that complementary bit as well.
I really do like the education. I think more people would invest time and energy and their resources into xeriscaping and sustainable landscaping if they knew what they could do and what was authorized by the city. I mean, a lot of times people just don't know for sure. Other people are not going to do a thing. They're barely going to get their lawn mowed on a regular basis. But for those people that are interested, there should be an avenue for them to have education about it.
This is Makokwa, and I agree with what everybody's saying. We should do away with the registration. I think we should see more exemptions. We should look at what, because there are obviously reasons why there's noxious weed ordinances and invasive species. There's some safety measures involved. So fully understanding that before we make our recommendation is really important. But also I think that, one of the things we face as a board in the city of Lawrence is we want to make recommendations that are going to benefit the city of Lawrence, but are going to hold up so that we don't have things like the county or state making ordinances that overrule ours. And so all of that upfront work that we can do, I think will pay off in the end. So having conversations with the county, see if we can get their support as well. I don't know whether that comes before or after we make our recommendation to the city commission. But I think it is the county that has the noxious weed ordinance. But once again, this is all education that we need to educate ourselves about as we make this recommendation to our city commission. Yeah, so I would encourage the subcommittee to do that and just help us as a broader board to understand, how best we can make the recommendation that's going to benefit all parties and enforcement as well.
This is Kate Johnson, Sustainability Advisory Board member. It's also important to remember that this can be a judicial situation, so you can actually be required to go to court if you don't comply with the rules. Also, it could be a takings situation under the law. The city cannot take your property and do things with it. So it's real important to understand there are points of law that perhaps the legal department should also explain to the subcommittee the ramifications of the weed ordinance. There is significant statewide court legislation that has gone through. I can tell you because I manage that in the city of Wichita. It is significant, and there is long history of court actions regarding, you can't believe it, but tall grass and weeds. So, I just would strongly urge you to discuss that with the legal department as well, because there are precedents and there's state laws regarding it, not just county, but state.
Yeah, thank you both very much. I mean, so on the weed side, on the noxious weed side, you guys are both absolutely right. I think we have done quite a bit of discussion and looking into it, right? That the state has a list of noxious weeds. We're not going to be able to list anything, like delist that within the city, and we don't have any intention to do that. Our list, and the county uses that exact same noxious weed list for their coordinator on ag fields and things like that, right? The city goes well beyond that with a list that goes beyond that as well. And we're discussing what those specific ones are. I think one thing though as well that we kind of want guidance on is this the place where we have another element? It would be under a weed subsection that says, how do you promote native landscaping, right? How do you get people, like we've been talking about right now, it's just a carve out as an exemption from the weed ordinance. We're not talking about changing that at all, but this is the only place that we know in the ordinance that's dealing with that landscaping aspect so far. So you're absolutely right too, Kay. Some of the things that we talked about and that Brian Jimenez also brought up is like setbacks, right? You need specific setbacks from roads. You need lines of sight for traffic lanes, height and things like that. I think people could be encouraged still to do native landscaping and fit within those things. Right now, it's also, at least our understanding is, Jackie, perhaps the reason you haven't needed an exemption is because you haven't had anyone complain. So as soon as someone complains, that sets off that chain reaction of, the enforcement people coming out and looking, notifying you, and then cutting it right away if it's above 12 inches if you don't have the exemption. So that's kind of a system as well where the burden of proof is on the landowner to make sure that they get these things if anyone complains at all about the height of them. So anyways, I think that's an effective, or that's a decent summary of what we've talked about as a subcommittee. But if others have things to chime in, I think I saw Kira had some stuff as well in the chat.
So this is Makokwa, and a couple of things a couple of thoughts that I had. One of them is this can get to be a really intense conversation because an invasive species in one place may not be an invasive species in another place. And so it'd be really hard. It's great that we have, the expertise of Courtney Masterson and a lot of other people to make those suggestions and then how best we can go about that. But, at the same time, we shouldn't reinvent the wheel. If there's other counties or places that have gotten their ordinances passed, then maybe we can borrow some of that language. And then, hoping that the county can also use the same language at a county level. Secondly, for equitability and inclusion, I'd really like to see some language about Native peoples and how they can plant and cultivate their own native species without fear of enforcement. There are ways to write that into the language, and I think that would be appropriate to have that under the exemption portion of that. Just because you're talking about like specific plant species to specific cultures, and I don't think listing those out would be beneficial. But that would, I would like to see that written into the ordinance or the policy or whatever. So those are just a couple of my thoughts. But however you guys want to come back and the type of language, then once we see that, then that's something that I think the board could probably vote on our next steps for that, based on y'all's suggestions.
This has been, thanks so much for that, Makokwa. So the group that's trying to work on the natural landscaping exemption came to that same thing that you did without me. I wasn't the one that was like, yeah, let's go look at other municipalities. And so we have a couple of examples, a couple from Johnson County and one from Colorado, I think, about that language. I really appreciate your comment about equity. I think we've thought about that a lot as well for also for renters versus owners, like how renters are impacted, which are disproportionately from, are different than in that way, in how they might have to keep up their lawns. So we've been trying to think about, but I really like this element as well. So do you see, I could see the exemptions that you're talking about still fitting here under the weeds of what they could grow. If we're trying to create a recommendation that City Commission could look at that would encourage people to do native landscaping or resilient landscaping, that's less to me like a exemption from weeds, right? I mean, I guess it still would be, but it's more holistic than that, right? It's like actually trying to encourage them. Does anyone have strong opinions on if that should also go here, and or maybe just subsection changes to weeds and native landscaping or something like that? Or I just don't have enough experience to know if you pull something like that out or if you keep it where it is, because that's where the language is now.
This is Kate Johnson, SAB board member. From my experience, it's important to keep it in one area so that a person doesn't have to go looking in several different locations in the ordinances. It seems maybe it's a separate section under that ordinance, but I think that, and I can't speak for obviously the legal department for the city of Lawrence, but it's easier for a person to find something if it's all under one section. If you have to go to different sections, it adds to the confusion.
This
There's
is
plenty of confusion.
Ben, have you guys consulted with the local NRCS group?
No, we have not yet.
I think that would be really beneficial for your group to meet with and talk with. When I worked on water quality issues, the NRCS group, the more that they're involved and the more advisement, then the more they are apt to support you. And then having that support when we make that recommendation, I think could give some weight to our recommendation to the city commission. And because they may be the ultimately people that they consult, they consult with as a city commission. So earlier on, getting them on board and getting their guidance on this would be really helpful, I think.
This is Jasmin, Sustainability Director. I would just also add
that I wouldn't worry too much about where it goes in the code and because ultimately your recommendation to the city commission is going to initiate a text amendment. And, I think it's helpful that you will have thought through everything and have that draft language ready. But it'll have to go through legal. It'll have to be vetted through that process. So I wouldn't spend too much time on like trying to figure out where it should go in the code, but just focus your time on the content that you think is most important.
Jasmin, should we open this up to are there any public commenters that wanted to comment on this or give any feedback to the noxious weed ordinance?
There are just a couple people that are not board members on the call, so or on the Zoom. So if yep, Michael, you have your hand up. So Michael Almon.
Hi everybody, Michael Almon. Thank you, Ben. I'm one of the people participating in the committee to rewrite this ordinance. So yeah, thanks, Ben. That was a good presentation. I think that the issue that Ben has talked with Brian Jimenez about enforcement and people that don't mow, there's a number of factors that affect that, well, the legitimacy of that really. For one thing, the existing ordinance says nothing about, and the word is not even included in there, about mowing. It's not in the ordinance. And yet the city will come and mow as the solution. What the ordinance says is 12 inches. Likewise, the ordinance refers to certain plants that Ben described that whole process. And I will have to disagree with Kay that this is not a public health issue. It's a grand misconception has been perpetrated for half a century now that tall weeds and grass will cause the presence of vermin and fire hazards and all that kind of stuff. Well, I've been fighting this issue since the 1980s. I was cited by the city of Lawrence for 13 years. I've had natural landscaping the whole time. The only fire I've had is a prescribed burn of my prairie, and I do that with a permit from the fire department. There are no vermin in my place, never have been. Rats will go to places of garbage, not natural vegetation. So a whole lot of this ordinance and other ordinances, other communities are based on that misconception. The way that I would see us the city differentiating between somebody who is, who has a turf grass lawn, a chem lawn, that doesn't take care of it. There's at least two things I can think of. First of all, is there the presence of the noxious weeds that are listed by the state of Kansas? If those weeds are on that site, they're in violation. The other one would be if it's amply evident that they're neglecting it. If it can be shown that somebody is actively maintaining their landscape, then that's a clear sign that it's intentional, that it's not just weeds. It's something that somebody is intentionally growing. And what we're trying to get away from is that right now the default in everybody's aesthetic and everybody's legal viewpoint, the default is the chem lawn, and natural landscaping is the exception. It's not the norm. It's the weirdos. It's something that the city claims the power to decide if you are legitimate or not. that can't be. Natural landscaping in this ordinance has to be clearly stated on an equal footing with turf grass landscaping. We're not telling them go away with turf grass landscaping, or for that matter, make turf grass landscaping illegal, although I would sure love to. No, I mean, that's, legitimate if somebody wants turf grass landscaping, but it should be equally legitimate and on equal footing and stated as such that people can grow natural landscaping. And if somebody complains, the burden of proof is on the neighbor as to why it's a problem, not on the landscaper to prove that it's not a problem. So there are ways to word this and state the emphasis and the purpose, and encouraging, a section that encourages natural landscaping. That will help a lot too. So we're thinking about a lot of this. We definitely are, and we're working on some wording. So I appreciate the feedback you all have given us. Well, that's all I really need to say. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. And I think sometimes it seems like it takes a long time to do things from like a policy perspective, and it really does, and it can get really daunting. But when you come up with a good, effective policy that works and withstands challenges, then that's going to last a lot longer than somebody who's going to come along and challenge that and have it done away with. So having that strong language, having these conversations now early on to develop a strong recommendation for the city commission and likelihood that they're going to pass it, then I think that works on us. And so I really appreciate the subcommittee taking the time to do that and getting public participation in that. I think that's really beneficial for a strong recommendation from this board. So thank you so much for that presentation. Is there anybody else that wanted to make comments?
I have to respectfully disagree with Michael. I've been in public health for over 20 years, and we have had significant situations where, and this is where, Michael, I agree with you, somebody that cares and is taking care of their property will not have the vermin and the mice and the fire issues. Somebody that is not, doesn't matter what kind of vegetation they have on their lawn, if they're not taking care of that situation, if they have junk and garbage on their property, it is a public health issue. But there is distinct two different sets of categories of folks, and we definitely need to encourage native landscaping. So I think there's definitely ways to do this that would encourage that and provide the education to get more of that. But also there has to be a way to deal with those recalcitrant landowners that do not deal with the tall grass and weeds, and they are just tall grass and they are a menace to the neighborhood. And I've seen a fire erupt when and burn down several houses when the area is not kept mowed or landscaped properly. With native grasses, you can do that and landscape properly and have appropriate setbacks. So there's a way to deal with it with both situations. I absolutely agree with that.
This has been Sikes, staff member. I really appreciate both of your comments, and I think that's the needle that we're trying to thread here, right? Is that in fact, it's not just two kinds of people. It's a spectrum, right? Of how do you write a stipulation, an ordinance that essentially encourages people to do native landscaping and take care of their lawn, but also set some boundaries of limits that people can't just do anything that they want on their property that might have this impact. Right now, I think there's pretty strong agreement that the ordinance as written, though, isn't dealing with that second part of the that first part of the boundary, right? It's encouraging people to do the things. It's just 12, as soon as it gets taller than 12 inches, if your neighbor makes a complaint, then they'll come and cut it, unless you have this carve out that's not really clear. So anyways, I really appreciate all the recommendations from you guys. And I think we'll keep both those public health issues, that element in mind when we're doing this.
Thank you, everybody, for that discussion. look forward to hearing what you guys come up with as you move forward as a subcommittee. So what's next on the agenda, Jasmine? I think it's the Sustainability Director report.
Yes.
So I'm going to share my screen.
Jasmine, because we didn't have a report for the other committees, I do want to say that 2 committees that I'm on, we are postponing our meetings until next week. We have had meetings. So the Energy Efficiency and Codes meeting, Deb Ford is the SAB champion, and she's unable to attend, but we plan on having a meeting in the next week. We did have a meeting in June, and then also the clean energy and energy efficiency for city operations. We had a meeting in June, and I'm the SAB champion, so we plan on having a meeting in July. So I just wanted to mention those 2 things real quick.
Thanks, Kay. Jasmin Moore, Sustainability Director. This was a late add to the agenda, but there is a report on the website now that's linked. So I'm sharing my screen here so we can all see it. There's a few things that I wanted to bring to your attention. The main thing is that the development of the 2022 city budget is happening right now. The City Commission was presented with the city manager's recommendation at last night's City Commission meeting. So I would encourage you to just keep track of what's happening with that. Just as a summary, in here I included the agenda report so you can see the PowerPoint presentation that was done that really gives you the high level summary of how that budget is developed. This is different than how we've done budgeting in the city. This is the first time that the budget is really deliberately aligned with the city's strategic plan. So I know that you all have heard me talk about the strategic plan for over a year now. So that was adopted, and there are now some key performance indicators as well as some strategies related to the 5 outcome areas that are listed here. And each of those 5 outcome areas has key performance indicators that are related to each of our 6 commitment areas, one of which is environmental sustainability. So, the budget presented for 2022 is the first attempt at trying to align our resources with the things that we say we value and care about. There are 3 things that are really core to the budget proposal. One is housing security. That's become a really high community priority, and that's reflected in the strategic plan, and that is reflected in this 2022 budget. The second is infrastructure. So there's a huge backlog of infrastructure and maintenance, and we know that that is not sustainable. And so trying to be more proactive and getting on top of the backlog of maintenance in terms of infrastructure is a high priority. And then third is employee compensation. There was a study done back in 2018 that issued some recommendations for what the pay should be for city employees. And so this is the first step towards bringing those pay rates up to a competitive level so that we can continue to have high-performing employees and retain our talent at the City of Lawrence. So those are the 3 big core funding initiatives. And then I also wanted to bring your attention to 8 new positions that are added in the 22 budget, including 1 sustainability analyst. So the proposal is to add 1 member to our sustainability office, which would, if this was approved, it would round us out to a director position, a sustainability analyst, and a sustainability and food system analyst, and a part-time intern. We currently have a grant position that's funding a position, but it's only through the fall of 2022. So that would help alleviate some of the demand for our time currently, especially with the city prioritizing prioritizing sustainability in everything that it does, there's a lot of work to do. So we're hopeful that this gets funded and that we can start that position early next year. So I wanted to also give you some information about how to participate in the budget process. There are a few ways. One is a survey. So there is a, let's see if this works, a Lawrence Listen survey about the city manager's recommended budget that you can give feedback on. There is, there will be several, there will be public hearings. And so August 31st is that's when the public hearing is. You don't have to wait until August 31st to make your opinions known. So that's where that survey comes in. And if you have public comment related to the budget, you can start sending that in now. So the deadline for budget approval is September 7th. So that's when the budget for 2022 will be finalized. So I wanted to pause there and see if there are questions about the budget development or anything related to budget.
Jasmin, this is Mako Chair. So we have time as a SAB board to review this on our own and then maybe come back with some recommendations, right, for the budget. Just in general, all of the city commission candidates are being asked about the downtown plan, downtown expansion, and environmental issues. Sustainability issues are a major discussion for the next, for whoever's getting elected for the next city commission. So I think that having some of those, a clear recommendation, especially in regards to the strategic plan, implementing the strategic plan and making sure that the strategic plan adheres to sustainability measurements is really important. And I think that's where we can play a key role in that. So we can do that at our next meeting, right? What's the timeline for that for the SAB board?
So the public hearing for the city commission is August 31st. There's always the option of SAB members sending in their comments individually. I have not been involved in a budget process where the board has issued a recommendation as a board, but there is time to do that. So if you were to want to do that, that would be at the August meeting, which is August 11th, which is the next SAB meeting. So you would need to bring forth a recommendation and vote on it at that August meeting if you want it to be a part of the public comment or recommendations related to the budget.
This is Mako, and I just wanted to ask Jackie if you recall ever the SAB board making recommendations to City Commission regarding budget issues?
No, the budget rarely came up in previous SAB discussion that I can remember.
Okay, so I would like for the SAB members to review that budget and hopefully we can come back to the next meeting with recommendations or, maybe if individuals, SAB members want to send in their comments, however we want to participate in that process as a SAB board. I still think it's an important role that we can participate in and shouldn't participate in, especially with that being such a hot topic right now.
This is Ben Sikes, SAB board member. Jasmin, I just have a question. So budgets are always forward-looking, right? They're what we want to do our priorities on. I don't think I have I'd like more context around the sustainability choices we've made that affect the budget. So, for example, you often see in the paper, for example, right, that because the city of Lawrence is going to buy renewable energy, we're going to save X amount of dollars out of the budget. That context is really important, I think, for the city commission to understand how the sustainability choices impact the money that they have to make these new priorities. And I don't think I have that context. Is there anywhere, somewhere, at least just around the sustainability choices, how those are impacting the amount of money on hand or how they might over the course of the next 4 or 5 years?
So we have Jasmin Moore, Sustainability Director. We have some information and data related to a few things that are directly related to like cost savings. So one is related to, like you said, the wind energy purchase and the savings related to that. And then the second is the energy efficiency improvements that we've done over a couple years back to city facilities, and we're continuing to see savings on a year-over-year basis based on those improvements. And so we just got the report of the third year of measurement and verification of those cost savings for utility costs. So those are the two that are easily accessible and would be really easy to pull together to say, over the last 5 years, the savings related to sustainability driven decisions has yielded this amount in savings.
This is Kate Johnson, SAB board member. That is really a great question, Ben, and is the reason why I wanted to see our subcommittee about city operations, because I know that many departments have already initiated different activities and processes to make improvements in their sustainability, particularly to environmental sustainability. But it is really most important that it be quantified. And so we're just getting started on asking the different departments to come to our subcommittee and talk about that. And I still have to work with Jasmin on getting that, but you're exactly right, Ben. We all need to understand where that each department is so that we can do more.
This is Makakwa, Chair. I appreciate you guys having those conversations, Kay. I've had conversations with both sanitation workers and the firemen, and they both agree that it would not be that difficult to incorporate sustainability into some of their equipment as they upgrade their equipment, into their practices, and that they would be willing to do that. It's not even like there's any resistance there to adding that to part of their training. It would create, a top-notch trained workforce for the city of Lawrence. If we could see that competitive pay reflected in that, that's something that I think easily that we as a SAB board can inform the city commission about. And then if we had those numbers to back it up, would even be that much better.
This is Jasmin, Sustainability Director, and that's where
I also see a lot of potential for one, working directly with departments on their sustainability goals and helping to quantify that and measure progress. And so that's where, having a sustainability analyst can help get us to that point so that it's easy to pull those numbers and to tell those success stories, because I agree that can be really powerful, and there's things happening in the organization that I don't even know about that are related to sustainability and cost savings, and so having some extra capacity to help capture that would be really valuable.
This has been Sikes. So Jasmin, would you be able to share the two documents that you were talking about, at least around the city operation savings and the wind energy purchase?
Yes.
It doesn't need to, in my mind, it doesn't also need to be a revolving thing, right? Like if we have cost savings off of sustainability, you don't necessarily have to use it on sustainability initiatives, although that would be excellent. But it would be nice to say, well, these bridge improvements that we're doing actually are 5% funded by cost savings that we got out of making our, energy systems more sustainable or something like that. That's a powerful argument since, environmental sustainability over and over has had to make an economic argument to be viable. I think it's valuable to quantify that to be able to use it in that way. Anyway, if you could share those two, that'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
This is Makakwa, Chair. I appreciate you laying this out for us, Jasmin. Some of the top concerns of the people and how the budget is being reflected in that. I think that one of the things that we can do as a staff board in both, whether we decide to participate individually as staff members or as a board, is to take time to connect these things to environmental sustainability. Like Ben was saying, being able to rely on that language of, this is how much money we've saved in the past, but, directly tying environmental sustainability to, affordable housing in Lawrence. I mean, the city commission would be more apt to listen to us, making it easy to, have that one conversation about two issues. And I think that's something that we as a board can connect those ideas, can give them that language, and make sure that, these ideas are constantly intertwined. Environmental sustainability should be a part of every conversation. And so if we can somehow tie those two things together, educate city commission about why it's important, then, and we have that part of every conversation, then, that's going to go a long way in having an informed elected body, and then also for public participation too, to get that knowledge as well, so that, any education that we can provide in our recommendations, I think is going to go a long way in explaining, why environmental sustainability is so important in the city of Lawrence. I know that city of Lawrence is really progressive in it. They understand some of those concepts, but I still think that there's other concepts that they see environmental sustainability not being a part of some of these conversations. And those are ways that we can insert ourselves and connect those easily for other people, and then, help them to see what we see.
Any other
Comments on budget before I move on? Okay, so the next thing I shared with you last month is our food recovery project, and this was the grant that I was referring to earlier. So we were successful in getting a USDA food waste reduction grant, and able to hire someone on staff, and one of the elements of their work is to help recover food from farms in Douglas County and connect that food with Just Food, the shelter, and other community partners that could use that healthy food to get to people who need it. So we call that gleaning, and that started back in March with just a few picks, and has ramped up over the last couple months. And I'm excited to share that we've harvested over 800 pounds of produce and been able to connect that with our community partners so that they could get that out to community members. So this is only made possible by volunteers. So we are always looking for volunteers to help us. Usually it only takes about an hour to go through and harvest a farm for a particular crop. And so we have a way to sign up to receive notification of our next gleaning, and there's an email here for anybody who wants to sign up. Just email Jamie at jhoffling@douglascounty.org, and she can get you connected. Sometimes we don't know until, a day ahead of time or a couple days ahead of time. Sometimes we know a week ahead of time, but oftentimes we get a call from a farmer that says, I got a call today that said, hey, we're going to be out of town next week, and we have some tomatoes that are ready for harvest, so could you come out? And so working with them to get something scheduled, and then notifying our volunteers about that. So so that's really exciting, and just something that is can make your heart happy. So any questions about that before I move on?
Jasmin, this is Makokwa. How would you go about being a part of that volunteer team? And I have a specific question about that.
Okay, yeah, so we have a way to sign up just on, I think it's Google Forms here. Let's click it and see what happens. Oh, it's going to take me away. Yeah, we just have this Google form where you put your name, do you want to get informed by text? When are you available? There's a couple different ways to volunteer. One is to actually get down in the dirt. Another is if you have reliable transportation. We always need help like transporting the lettuce to the location that needs it. Or there's other ways to volunteer. So that's that. And then we can get you connected with the opportunities that match your interest level. Let me see, did Makokwa? Yeah, there you go. Okay, what was your specific question? Oh, maybe she had to step away for a moment. We'll come back to it when she's ready. Let's see. Oh, I'm in the wrong spot. Just bear with me, please. She's back. Oh, okay. Makokwa, did you have a question?
Yes. Sorry, I don't know what happened with that. The reason why I was asking that is because I don't know. So one of the ideas that I had, and this is just me personally, was how can we get people who are participating in what do you call that? Like public service hours, especially with the municipal courts.
Yep.
How can we get them participating in this to where they can volunteer for this program and use it for some of their service hours? Would that be a difficult feat to do?
Yeah, we've actually partnered with them before. Our office is actually housed in a county facility that is, we're working in the same space as people that coordinate the community service aspect. And so we've worked with them in the past. And the challenge is that, like I said, sometimes it's last minute, and so it's difficult to plan ahead to get folks in there, but we have been in communication with them and have partnered with them in the past on things.
This is Moxie. That's great. Yeah. However, we can. I just know that there's some people that even though it is last minute, they haven't planned out their public service hours, so maybe they're rushing around. But if we can, and I think this is where that we could rely on our like our social media people, our communications people to get that out would be really helpful. And obviously publicizing that type of program, especially post-COVID, I think that's something that could really benefit a lot of the people in the city of Lawrence.
Mm-hmm. This is Jasmin, Sustainability Director. Great points. We have publicized this on the Sustainability Facebook page and done a few features in the city publications and the county publications in both of their Facebook pages, but we know there's always more to be done. So yeah, we welcome opportunities to partner to spread the word because it's always it's just a really positive experience to be out there with other people that and really it really only takes an hour of work to put in and you're able to really help. So thanks for that comment. Okay, speaking of volunteers, we also utilized volunteers for our electronic waste event last month. Last month I didn't have numbers for you, but this month I do. So at the event that we held on Saturday, June 5th, we collected almost 80,000 pounds of electronic waste from our community in Douglas County. That's a lot of material. We saw over 1,000 vehicles come through. And just to give you a sense, that is the amount of waste that usually we collect over a year. And so in the last 7 months, we've collected, I put the numbers together, twice that amount in the last 7 months because the last event that we had was in November. So there was a lot of pent-up demand to get electronics out of people's houses, and we're thankful for everyone that participated because by coming to our event, you we're able to keep all this material out of the landfill, and a lot of these things have heavy metals in them and other things that are damaging to the environment and our groundwater and soils. And so we're really appreciative of everyone that participated, and we appreciate your patience, because when you try to get 1,000 vehicles through and unloading cars, it takes a while. So we know there is a wait, and we appreciate those that were patient with us. So any questions about e-waste?
This has been Sikes. Thanks for you guys doing that. I know there's a lot of pent-up demand. Do you foresee that there could be value in having more events per year? Or I know it's hard to get volunteers and do it so many times, but have you reached saturation, right? Are there people that are sitting there and they're like, I was going to do my e-waste, but I'm not going to because I don't want to sit in line for an hour to do it, right?
Yeah, this is Jasmin, Sustainability Director. Yes, we know that we used to do it twice a year, and then we had some changes, and it went a couple years without having an event, and we really saw last November that people couldn't wait to get back and bring their waste out. So we know there's definitely a demand for it. The challenge is that it takes a significant amount of staff time to plan these events, and you wouldn't think so because it's just one day, but just the preparation and planning that goes into coordinating a large event like this takes time. And in thinking about our capacity of our sustainability office, we only have so much, and so we're talking about planning for an event next year, but when it comes to thinking about twice a year events, we need more capacity to do that. So it's possible that with this added position that would help and help us do that, but we can't make any promises at this point.
Jasmin, this is Makokwa. What is the process? Where's the e-waste going after this? What kind of recycling methodologies are we using once people recycle their e-waste to the sustainability office?
So we partnered with a group called Technic Solutions, and they're based out of Manhattan, Kansas. And they are an electronic waste recycler, like certified facility. And so they, believe it or not, separate everything and really break it down into the materials that, there's a lot of plastic in here, and that, doesn't need to be recycled in the same way that a hard drive would. So first of all, they wipe all the data off of it. So they drill holes and do other things to make sure that no data is compromised. And then they really break it down into components and do everything that they can to recycle those in a way that's responsible. So as we were unloading, you'll see the picture of all the computer towers here. As we unloaded, we sorted it into computer towers. There's a whole different thing for phones, there's a whole different thing for laptops, so we, the TVs are all here. So they sort it out, and then for things that are, there's some materials in there that are valuable metals in there, and they're able to strip those out in a way that they can, get those out to market and resell. So is that helpful?
Yes, thank you
Okay.
so much, Jasmin, for explaining that.
Yeah. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to share is that there's a Kansas Environmental Conference that's coming up in August. It's a 2-day conference. It's virtual, and it's free. So I just wanted to share this in case anybody on SAB or anybody that's a member of the public would be interested in attending one or more sessions of this event. It is a free event. It's Kansas specific, and so it would be an opportunity to learn more about what's going on in the state as it relates to the environment. So, oh, and then there's one more thing that I wanted to share as it relates to transit. So last month, you all heard about the buses, but I think you also heard a little bit about the transit facility and the transit hub. And so the recommendations for the hub, both at Bob Billings and Iowa, as well as a downtown location, a transfer station, are going to be going before several advisory boards and ultimately the city commission in the next month. So there's an opportunity for public comment at each of those intervals. And I would just encourage you, if this is something that you are supportive of, to participate in that process. So the first, and I will put these in the notes and send out to you all as well. The first is on August 2nd, there's a multimodal transportation commission meeting where they will be hearing about the recommendations. And so there's public comment there. At the August 9th Public Transit Advisory Committee meeting, they will be hearing about those recommendations. And then currently scheduled for August 17th City Commission meeting, they will be seeking feedback and approval to advance the project. So this is an opportunity to get involved and talk about an issue that you care about, if this is an issue that you care about. So wanted to share those opportunities as well.
This is Kate Johnson, SAB board member. My question is, I thought we heard that the transit department was hiring a consultant that would help provide information about what is needed for their process and maybe for the facilities, but I don't know. Where is that in this process? And that couldn't have been done so fast, I wouldn't think, because I think we just talked about that last month.
So this is Jasmin, Sustainability Director. I'm trying to think
Maybe it was 2 months ago.
Yeah, exactly what that was in reference to. The information that will be considered at these meetings are related to the concept and design in terms of placement of the transit center in the downtown area, because there were 3 or 4 different options for what location made sense for the downtown area. So it would be basically be moving the current transfer station, which is across the street from the library and just on the street, to a more intentional, like off-street situation where people can transfer buses in a safer way. And so giving the green light to move forward with that project. And then the second component is the transit hub, which is at the Bob Billings and 15th Street. There were a couple different design options for that. And so that is the level of approval that they're looking for is from my understanding. So
this is Kay, SAB board member. So, one of the things that that I agree with Michael Almon on is that they don't need a lot of gasoline tanks for electric buses. And that was the discussion that I think that's most important to me right now, is that the facilities be designed such that they can handle electrification instead of using old technology. So I didn't know if that is going to be touched on, if you know that or not.
This is Jasmin, Sustainability Director. I can ask Adam Weigel, who's the Transit Director, to get back with us on the specifics, but I know that has come up in the discussions. And in general, the response has been that fueling of any sort, whether it be electricity or diesel like we're currently using, is most likely going to happen off-site. At a fueling location. There may be opportunities to, for electric buses to fuel up at the transfer station, but for the most part, that's going to happen at another facility. So that is
like at Mississippi, like at the municipal services operations facility?
They actually, the transit has a facility that's separate from that.
I see.
So I wanted to bring that up, and then also that transit is committed to trying not to buy any more diesel buses at all. So I think these last two grants have really helped them accelerate progress towards that. And so I'm pretty sure that it's their intention to, rotate those as they cycle through vehicles to move towards electrification as quickly as is reasonable with their finances. But that's the direction that they're moving. So they're not building a fueling infrastructure at either of these sites. That's not part of their plan.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Jasmin, for that report. Where are we at on the agenda now?
So let's see. Okay, now let me just reshare. Okay, now we are at future agenda items.
Do we have specific things listed, or did people want to mention ideas on their own?
This is Jasmin, Sustainability Director. I will just mention that I have had conversations with the appointee to the Public Incentives Review Committee that was recommended by the Sustainability Advisory Board, and they're prepared to come in August to the August meeting and discuss, their experience and any feedback to this group. So that's the only thing that has a specific date that's on the current list of future agenda items.
I think the one thing, this is Makokwa. I think the one thing that I would like to discuss sooner rather than later in our next board meeting is the role of the Sustainability Advisory Board in context of the strategic plan and county priorities. It seems like there are, the city of Lawrence is moving forward with the strategic plan. There's talk of a downtown expansion or downtown renovation of some sort. And I think that the more we're involved with that, the better. And then the more we can come up with specific recommendations as a board, the better and the more effective we are going to be as a board. I know we've taken the time to set our priorities, and we've taken the time to restructure our subcommittees to where they're more effective. I think just as a board, making more of those recommendations is key to our role and obviously the goals of why we're on this board, every one of us. So, somehow we need to be in those discussions. We need to be making those recommendations, have the clear goals that we want as a board see implemented in the city of Lawrence. And we all have different backgrounds that we can come at with in that. And so just relying on this board to bring your expertise and your knowledge and your, the boldness of you making a recommendation, and then as a board we can come up with some language for that. But those ideas to come forward, I highly encourage this board to do.
On this agenda, I appreciate, this is Kate Johnson, SAB board member. I appreciate, Jasmin, you getting our PRRC coordinator to attend and give feedback to us. But also, I think we did respond to a poll regarding the plastic bag and the bag issue. That hasn't been discussed as a response, and also the solar ready ordinance that we'd made recommendations. I think it's time for us to understand where the city commissioners stand on those. That's been some time ago that those were submitted.
This is Michael. Sorry, was that a specific question to Jasmin? I was getting
Yes.
time.
Okay.
And I would really like to see that on the future agenda items.
I will add it.
This is Michael. Jasmin, if I'm correct, didn't the state legislature, I don't know if they presented a bill or passed a bill overriding municipalities putting plastic bag ordinances in place?
This is Jasmin, Sustainability Director. It was introduced in the 2020 session, but it was not voted on. And it was not introduced in the 2021 session.
Okay, so ideally we could put that before our city commission then.
Yes.
Great, thank you. This is Makakwa. I know that the Indigenous Community Group or the Indigenous Community Center is up and running and they have a board. So maybe if we invite them to come and have a discussion with us and talk about their priorities and their mission, that would be one way we could work with, tribal people in the city of Lawrence and come up with ways that we can work together with them and support common goals. Anything else from the staff board members about future agenda items? Okay, this is Makakwa. I did want to make one more suggestion. I would highly encourage this board to submit questions to city candidate forums, especially regarding environmental sustainability. They take those questions seriously, and that's something that we want our incoming city commission to have on their mind. That's an important part of the city of Lawrence. There's a lot of people asking individually about, candidate issues and where they stand on environmental sustainability. So the more that we pressure our city commission to answer those questions, the more we make it a priority, then I think that, that will become more present in the minds of the incoming city commission that gets voted on in November. So Jasmin, I think the next one is member updates, and then turn it over to public comment.
Yes.
This is Makakwa. So anybody have any member updates? This is usually the really positive part of the meetings.
This is Sarah Chenoweth, member. As I said at the beginning, I started a new job last month. I don't know. I'm excited about that. I'm an intern for the League of Kansas Municipalities.
That's awesome, Sarah. Congratulations. Good luck. So this is Makakwa. We are knee deep in city candidate issues. Like I said, the forums, we participated in 2 forums, not asking questions. There's going to be more forums coming up. I really would like to see more discussions about environmental sustainability, especially woven into the issues that are facing Lawrence. Affordable housing, police reform. I recently talked about in one of the forums how when temperatures rise during the summertime, we see an increase in crime. When temperatures in the wintertime go down, we see more people going to jail just to have a warm place to stay. And so these are all issues that I think that we as a board can advise our city commission on and put in the minds of people. As when you're looking at environmental sustainability, that has a direct tie to crime statistics in the city of Lawrence, which also has a direct link to police relations with the community, which goes to police reform. So yeah, the more that we can get involved in that conversation, the better. But things are going ahead, full ahead, super busy. Sorry for being late today at the meeting.
I do have one additional one. I participated in K-State had a session on carbon sequestration and soil health, and that was really fantastic. And Ben, if I'd had your direct email close, I would have sent it to you, but it was a free Saturday session with experts regarding carbon sequestration and what is going on in Kansas. It was really good, and I think they were going to record it, so I will get the links and send it out to everybody. I really would encourage everybody to watch that. It was 3 or 4 hours, but it was definitely really good. They had fantastic speakers.
Anybody else have any member updates? Do you see anybody raising their hand, Jasmin?
Not for member updates, but I think that Michael would like to participate in public comment.
All right, well, let's turn it over to public comment.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, once again, Michael Almon. And actually, this is not general public comment. I wanted to speak on Jasmin's director's report, but you didn't take any public comment. So is that okay that I speak to that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's perfect, Michael.
Oh, okay, great. Specifically, the sustainability analyst position. This is a really big deal as far as I'm concerned, and I hope you appreciate it as much. As you know, Jasmin's funding is split between the city and the county, and therefore her workload is not entirely for the city of Lawrence. Some of it's for the county too. Whereas this position is entirely funded by the city. So it's 100% focused on city issues, which this board addresses. The way that, after last night's city commission meeting, let me see, I'm sorry, here it is. The way that the mayor put it is that the sustainability analyst will help Jasmin move some of these projects forward, in particular, the climate plan. So keep in mind that some of these things have been backlogged, and the climate plan is probably the most important one. It also is on the 2022 planning department work plan. So this person and Jasmin and the planning office, from what I understand now, will take that and really give it a push. So as far as the budget goes, I'd strongly recommend, maybe individuals or the board to make a comment about funding that position. Since last night's recommended budget by the city manager, now the horse trading is going on, as they say. People have their ideas of what they like in the budget, what they don't, and what they want to delete from the budget, and what they want to substitute in the budget. And that position isn't necessarily funded yet. It's only funded when they make their decision at the end of August. And as we approach the August 31st budget hearing, the budget gets tighter and tighter and more firm in place. So your comments, the earlier on, the better. The July 20th, July 26th, the recommended budget goes to the Planning Commission. August 16th, the budget notice is put in the Lawrence Journal World for publication. At that point, it's pretty much set in stone. So, the earlier you make your comments, the better. And one final thing about the budget, I liked your discussion about transit and electrification and all that. if you look at the capital improvement plan in the budget, that's where a huge amount of city funding, maybe half of the city funding is going. And there's a big section in the capital improvement plan, a vehicle replacement plan. Every year, there are dozens and dozens of vehicles that they replace. Generally, the vehicles are replaced on a 12 to 15 year cycle, when they serve their purpose. Well, that transition should be happening, that particularly like they replace a number of police cars every year. They should be replacing them with electric Teslas, which are much faster and the safest car on the road. I mean, so maybe you could address something about replacing the vehicles in that capital improvement plan with electric vehicles too. So that's about the budget, and that's what I wanted to say. So thank you again for your work.
Thank you so much, Michael, for that feedback. Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. I wish the city of Lawrence could afford Teslas. That would be ideal. But, shoot for the stars, land on the moon, right? So thank you so much for your feedback. And those are great suggestions. Hopefully we can, as a board, address, make some of those suggestions as we move forward with the budget. And hope that's what obviously that's the goals that I want to see happen with the board too. So, so yeah, thank you for that. Anything else, Jasmin, before we adjourn?
Nope.
I'm assuming that's a no.
I got nothing.
Okay. Sorry. All right. Does anybody else have any last comments from the board? Any more public comments, Jasmin?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, then I think that we adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody, for coming, for showing up. Once again, I apologize for being late. And yes, I would encourage all board members to review the budget so that maybe we can, look at making a recommendation at the next meeting. Thank you so much.